Let's spring into action. In today's demonstration, let's see what happens to those that drink and drive. CCV Radio wishes to advise, if you value your life, don't drink and drive. If you decide to have a few, take a back seat and have a designated driver. Tell it as it is, with your hosts, Leon George and John Gelman.
Real talk, real issues.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome to CCV Radio, the #1 internet station broadcasting to you throughout the globe. We once again thank you for allowing us into your home, and we want to try to bring the program to you to see how much we can learn from your computer. Learn tonight. So, well, tonight we have a very interesting topic to line up, and it's to do with euthanasia. We sometimes call mercy killing or assisted suicide. And we also have a special guest on with us tonight. Is Reverend Henry. And my regular co-host tonight is John Kilman from Barbados. I'd just like to introduce my co-host and the special guest that we have on tonight. John?
Yes, thank you very much, George. Let me say a very good night to the world. Nice being with you. And we have a topic tonight, as George has mentioned, euthanasia, mercy killing. What words. And we hope to do our best in giving our opinions and how we feel about it. And we certainly look forward to hearing your calls, perhaps, and, of course, your emails as to your opinion of the situation. I will stand by now on this.
Yeah, I take this opportunity to welcome Reverend Henry with us tonight. Reverend Henry, welcome to the program.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, good. Now, before we start tonight's program, I want to apologize for last week, and that we couldn't have a program last week. It's a bit beyond our control, and these things happen from time to time. However, I also want to thank Kurt for the last program we had on the 13th. Kurt, you sent me some valuable information, and I want to tell you how grateful I was for that information. Although I can say you hit me for 6, because there was I talking about the topic we had on, which was abortion, and I went throughout the internet and looking for information, and the one thing I didn't do, which was the most important thing, was to look up the laws regarding the Abortion Act in Trinidad and Tobago. And that was a bit, I think, an oversight by me, and I thank you for the information that you have sent me, and I made a very fundamental error in stating that abortion, it doesn't allow for in case of a psychological, when a person may have a psychological problem or something like that. And I think you sent me some information which dispel that statement that I make. And I want to tell you, keep sending your information. I very appreciate it. And that shows to tell you how sometimes it's not good to always have a personal opinion on things, because when you do, what you present is how you see it from your point of view, and it's not according to accurate knowledge. And that is why I try to stay away from personal opinion. So Kurt, once again, thank you, and I hope you tune in tonight and you'll play a part in the program that we have lined up for you tonight. So again, so let's get on to tonight's program. Tonight's program, it's a very topic that it's very, I would say, controversial, when maybe not here in the Caribbean, but we are not immune from what goes on in the rest of the world, especially in the Western world. Almost anything that happened in the Western world will someday show up at the doorstep of the Caribbean. So this is why we should not exclude any topic or any issue that is in the Western world, and to think that it can't happen here, which will not show up here. We saw, some people say that when something happened in the United States, they just catch a cold and we blow a nose, or they blow the nose and we catch a cold, or something like that. So, and tonight the topic that we're going to discuss, it's a very, very interesting topic. It's one that I never really thought that we'll be discussing here tonight, and that is euthanasia, or mercy killing, or assisted suicide, how you want to call it. Well, first let's take what is actually euthanasia. There are so many organizations now which are called a right to die movement. Someone might be terminally ill, and they might tell themselves, look, rather than suffer, or rather than live with an illness, I would rather end my life. And sometimes they are not in a position to do so. So they will want assistance, they will want help. And this is why they will go out and ask someone to help them do it. And this is where a next individual comes in, which is called assisted suicide. Now, in many countries, this is illegal. In many countries, it is illegal. It's legal. And in many countries, there is a technicality in the law that you can do it and get away with it. I was going through the list of countries where this topic is being discussed openly. Some countries where it's legal and where it's not. But the one that grabs my attention is Uruguay. While euthanasia or assisted suicide is not legal in Uruguay, one could engage in assisted suicide and not be prosecuted through the technicality in the law. And it states, if you are of good, noble standing, and to make it more plain, if you someone who have done human service to your country, or you're probably a sport hero or something like that, or one who will serve in public life, and you were to commit a homicide or commit a murder, the judge have that discretion to pardon you. And as I read more on it, what happened is this: people help people to die, assist them in suicide, and it could be classified as a homicide or a murder. But you know what? If they go before a judge, the judge have the discretion or the authority to not prosecute that person. So there lies the technicality in how assisted suicide can be practiced in Uruguay. There are many examples that I went through yesterday and throughout the last week in how people was able to beat the law and how people was able to escape persecution from assisting people from dying. And this right to die movement is growing in numbers and strength. And I would say even influences, it is growing. There was one doctor in Norway who had assisted someone to die and lost his license to practice. He lost every single case each time he was prosecuted, he appealed and he lost over and over. He was not penalized for assisting the individual in dying. What was happened? It just took away his license to practice. He tried to get it back. However, he died at the age of 82 fighting for the right to practice again. And when he died, the amount of people in influence showed up in his funeral, such as politicians and lawmakers and so showed up. It tells you that the right to die movement is definitely growing in influence, it's growing in strength, it's growing in stature. But I would want to hear later on from the callers. I would like to hear John give us perspective on this, and later on we're going to get a biblical perspective from Reverend Henry. He's going to enlighten us in what the Bible has to say about assisted suicide. John?
Okay, thank you very much, George. Now, my perspective is that of a social worker. And from the onset, the origin of this euthanasia we have learned it is Greek in origin. And I think two words were coined together to form it. We have EU, how you pronounce that, you, and that is equivalent to good. You meaning good, and thanatos, if that's the way it's pronounced, is death. So we are talking about good death. And I suppose this is all coming about because most people, they don't have a peaceful passing. The majority of people don't have a peaceful passing. So if you can do something to bring about a palliative passing, people begin to think that this is merciful to the one who is dying. My argument is that it might not necessarily be so, because one has to ask the question, when someone is moribund, dying, are they always conscious that they're dying, or they have gone past consciousness? And very often the caregivers, the relatives, are really hurting over what is happening to their relative. And when you indulge in mercy killing, what are you really doing? Are you making it easy for the victim, who probably may be unconscious and not aware? Or are you making it easy for yourself because you find it extremely challenging to go through such an ordeal? So, are you really doing something good for that one? Or are you not? Are you doing it for yourself? And I would want to say that I am really opposed to mercy killing, euthanasia. And I shall be bringing my points to support my objection to it. And if I could just give you a little rundown on some of the things that I have got against it. For instance, I begin to see mercy killing, euthanasia, in a subtle way, disrespecting the sanctity of human life. Because when you take someone's life under the guise that you are helping them out of some pain or something like that, I don't know When, if we could use a biblical term, when the pool of Bethesda is troubled, when the adrenaline begins to flow, there are lots of things that we will do in the spur of the moment, as we put it. But when that settles and subsides and now you are back firmly on the earth and have time to concentrate and recollect what has been done, I can see in a post-mortem sense a guilt complex coming up. We can avoid that if we didn't going for this euthanasia. I suppose one would argue that one has the right to kill themselves, but I don't know if we would stand and allow someone to do that. I don't think from a moral point of view that we would want to do that. What is there to be gained when you either assist someone in a suicide or you do it yourself? I have got something against that. It makes me at right angles. There are other points that I can make, but I think I will stop at this and allow someone else to maybe slide, and then I can come again.
Yeah. Before I bring in Reverend Henry, I want to say that I do not have a position on it. This is a really issue that I would like to look a bit more into, study a bit more about it. And as a matter of fact, I already signed up for a newsletter from one of these organizations. Not because I agree or disagree. I signed up because I want a better understanding of why people will think the way they think and why people believe this way. This is the way to go when somebody's terminally ill. And even this talk about terminally ill, I want to take that up later with Reverend Henry and all. What it does it mean once you once you get a medical results or medical stating that you have a particular illness, which in most cases lead to death, is it right away you were saying that you're terminally ill, and all these issues I would like to pick up with Reverend Henry later on. Now, Reverend Henry, before I go for that, am I pronouncing the name correctly? Is it Reverend Henry?
Yes.
Am I correct? Yeah, oh, good. Okay, good, thank you. Yes. I want to bring you in here from a biblical perspective. How does the Word of God support this kind of action? Does it support it or don't support it?
The biblical texts seem not to support it. We are always charged with the preservation of life, and except in case of war, when you kill your enemy. But apart from that, we should always be out to preserve life. I have a couple of real life examples when I was working as a pastor. I had a woman in church who had double aneurysm, and she was in a coma for 9 months, really. And we all thought that it was over for her. The doctor had done one surgery and then waited and then did the other one. And the family had discussed whether or not she would ever be able to function again. And then one morning she woke up. Well, if they had euthanized her, I think that they would have lost the opportunity to see her alive again. She went on to work, and as far as I know, she's still very active. But we had Dr. Kevorkian, who made it his mission to assist people in terminating their lives. He got into a lot of trouble, and as I remember now, he served some time in jail for that. I don't support it. Except that I have witnessed, however, in hospitals where the doctors thought that they had done all that they could, and these people were on life support, and they did what we call pulling the plug. They simply turn off the machine that was helping them to breathe and to stay alive. But there was really no brain function, no other kind of functions. But it's a very troubling subject, and sometimes people here have what they call power of attorney, which would give a relative or a friend the right to make decisions about their health, life, and death when they could no longer function. But put me down as against it.
Mm-hmm. In case of the particular example that you gave, the lady who was in a coma and waked up, was she in discomfort? Was she suffering?
Well, we never know. We could only imagine that she was not. But because when she woke up, she never mentioned anything about suffering. Her memory was gone and all of that. But even because people suffer, I don't think it gives us the right to really execute.
I like the word.
Well, yeah, we don't have that right. Again, I have witnessed people who, in the best medical knowledge, thought that the continued preservation of their life would not be meaningful. But the biblical text again does caution that we should not take other people's lives. So that's where I am, and I'm sure I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical doctor, and a doctor would tell me. Some doctors, some wouldn't handle it at all. Some would just leave it up to the patients and to their, not to the patients, but to their families. So, I have not, definitively, well, let me back up. I have not really, given thought to being euthanized. I want to be here as long as I can be. And, because we're dead longer than we're alive, and no point expediting the process. Sometimes, however, it tends to be financial. People don't have enough money to pay for the sustenance of life. And then they decide, well, we can't pay anymore, especially in a society like ours where everything has to be paid for by insurance or one's own personal funds. So, my vote is no.
Dr. Visky, he was unapologetic, but while he supported euthanasia, he supported one of his main reasons was, if you take away a person's life who have no hope of surviving, you can then give other people a good life. He said he talk about taking the what you might call organs and using it in other people who have illness that would need organ transplants, such as a liver. He said that one person's liver at least could share for at least 3 or 4 people, could save at least 3 or 4 people's lives. He talks about the kidney, he talks about the body parts, and that's one of his reasons. He was unapologetic. No. Yeah, let me just finish. Now, he's in prison right now. He's serving a prison term. But before he went to prison, we must know that he have won many legal battles before that. And I think what I want to ask, is it easier to suffer or easier to die? Because one may be suffering. Now, life is not about how long you live. Life is about the quality of life you live. And I always say to people, that is the way I want to live. I'm not going to concentrate on how long I live. I'm going to concentrate on the quality of life that I will live. If I am supposed to live to 99, 102, 103, I want to be healthy. I want to be up and around. I don't want to live life 6 and 7 years or 10 years bedridden. You know?
Why not?
And, well, again, you see, it takes away a lot of your manhood, your independence, that you lie there and someone have to do every single thing for you. Now, this is something like a bitter pill to swallow. I have seen it with a friend of mine who had taken ill. He got ill, and he came home from the hospital, and he couldn't live like that. And when there was nobody in the road, he broke a lampshade and cut himself, and he bleed to death because he didn't tell himself that he didn't want to live that way. But I am not, by saying that though, I am not saying that I support mercy killing or euthanasia. Or if it happens to me, if I'm bedridden, I am not saying that I will want to go down that way. I don't know yet. I'm not in that position, so therefore I reserve my opinion on that. I don't know. When I reach in that position, I could very well have a change of heart from the way I see it now. Because it's easy to say one thing when you're not actually in the situation, but when you get into it, you could see things differently. But go ahead, John.
Yeah, George. Now, you mentioned just now the idea of organs, donating organs to other people to give them a good life. And that is exactly what I am talking about when I mentioned at first about the disrespect for the sanctity of human life. Now, when you take someone's kidney, they're not dead yet, but you think that they are beyond redemption's point. They are irrevocably gone. And then you take an organ for someone else whose life can be enhanced. You know how I see that, George? You are accepting that some lives are worth more than others. How dare you? What gives you the authority to feel that way and execute it? His life doesn't worth anything now, so we take an organ from him and give to someone else. That's not your prerogative.
Yeah, but just remember, I am representing a situation. I am not one who agree or disagree with that. This is a topic for me. It's going to be a learning experience, and I will try to understand this perspective in how people think, the way they think, and why people will want to have these different groups around the world, and why people will want to support these things. And I am just stating the facts as I have learned about them, you know. But it's not, I can't say that I have a position on this issue. So if you mention you, please don't get the impression that I support or don't support. My mind is open on this, you know.
Well, mine isn't. I do not support euthanasia.